Bradford again with Murray to his left. Murray is dropping the football as it is swung out to him on the flat. Fakes, looks, fires, and almost intercepted, or is it? It picks off by the Panthers. It was dropped by Jordan Matthews. He steps up. He fires. It is incomplete, dropped by Matthews. He looks. He fires. And it's dropped by Sproles at the 9. Bradford's back. He fires. And is it caught? No. Incomplete. Huff could not come down with the football at the back of the end zone.
If he catches it cleanly, he's got a touchdown right here.
He fires and it's dropped on a crossing pattern by Zach Ertz. He fires and it's incomplete off the hands of Miles Austin. That has been the story in so many games, Mike. Do you ever remember the Eagles dropping more passes than they have this season?
I do not.
And neither do I, as the Eagles, quote-unquote, dropped the ball against the Carolina Panthers this past Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. I guess to open things up here, I mean, I can't ever remember watching a game where so many wide receivers, just players in general for the Philadelphia Eagles, dropped the football. And that's quite a disappointment, obviously, and we'll break this Eagles game down. Obviously, the focal point is dropped footballs. And I mean, Jordan Matthews of all people, he's been dropping balls left and right this season, and I just can't understand whether it's psychological or like it's spreading like some kind of virus, like drop ball syndrome or something, or what. But and they're not incredibly difficult balls. I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things I don't know where to start as far as that goes. But I mean, that's not the only. I guess I mean this game still, in spite of all these drop balls, still could have been won at different various points. There were points I'm watching this game, and I'm just not happy with the play calling or whatnot. I mean, and something I take away from this game, I mean, it was a measuring stick game for the Eagles, obviously. But Carolina, despite not playing many good teams so far this year, they're somewhat for real at this point. I mean, they're up at 6-0 territory, and aside from the Green Bay Packers, they're the only undefeated team in the NFC right now, with 3 undefeated teams, of course, over in the AFC. So there's 5 undefeated teams in the NFL so far, like at 6-0 right now. It's a bit hard to believe that there's that many undefeated teams still, but nevertheless, the Eagles failed to hand the Carolina Panthers their first defeat. And I don't want to turn this into a, going gaga over the Carolina Panthers or anything, but I mean, obviously you saw a difference from last year when Cam Newton was banged up in the game against the Eagles. I mean, Carolina's defense, they look physical. The way they hit, the way they run the ball. I mean, Jonathan Stewart, the guy's got legs the size of, people's bodies out there, and they handed, the Eagles their first real test, I think, this year as far as running the football goes. And the Eagles' front 7, they didn't really have their way this game. Credit to Cam Newton. It's one of those things where, again, it is a luxury if your quarterback is a threat to run like Cam Newton is. And you saw that on read option plays, read option looks. Not necessarily even when he's actually running the ball, but just because you have to account for the simple fact that he may run the ball. Not to mention he could scramble out of the pocket, make some throws with, on the run. Obviously, that's important as well. An important quality Cam Newton has as well. And then you go over to the Philadelphia Eagles. You go to Sam Bradford. And he's not capable of any of that, really. Obviously, early on in this game, I mean, there were a couple back and forth turnovers, some sloppiness both ways a little bit early on in the game. Again, I mean, that first interception, I mean, it was a little behind Jordan Matthews that Bradford threw, but it's still a catch that your number one wide receiver needs to make. And especially coming off of a promising season that we saw last year, a promising rookie season out of Jordan Matthews, it's like he's taking a step back. And it's really unfortunate, too, because with Jeremy Maclin gone, obviously, you know, over at the 2-5 Kansas City Chiefs, it's kind of like, you know, a lost cause here, but Jordan Matthews, unfortunately, to me, I mean, not to me, but probably to everybody, is having a disappointing season and has dropped way too many very catchable balls that got to be caught in this league.
It's like you got a problem with concentration.
I don't know whether that's it or not, but the bottom line is you got to catch that football. And unfortunately, that it kind of bobbled and ended up in the hands of the Carolina Panthers defense. I mean, really, obviously this game, things got a little tense, I guess, when Jason Peters went down and they go to a commercial break and then they come back and there's like this giant prayer circle around, and it looked like for a second there Jason Peters' season as we know it, and who knows, perhaps career was over at that point.
Oh God, ease our suffering in this our moment of great despair.
The way he had such a hard time getting up on the cart and whatnot, and it just, obviously that did not look good, and it wasn't good for the rest of the game, obviously. You know, everyone was wondering, what was it? Was it, you know, was it something with the Achilles or something like that? Well, apparently, you know, as an update as of earlier today, it's more like back spasms from what we hear, fortunately. They got some good news, actually. I guess you could call it some good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. Coach Chip Kelly said that left tackle Jason Peters should be good to go when the team reconvenes next week following their bye week this coming weekend, obviously. Obviously, Peters was carted off the field with what looked like a devastating injury. He could barely even move to get on the cart, but it was, at the end of the day, it was just a lower back injury, fortunately. And it's been, again, that would be a huge loss for the Eagles' offensive line the rest of the game. And they got to get, you know, Matt Tobin over there, and fortunately, I guess they'll have Jason Peters back. I mean, heck, Coach Chip Kelly went out there to help. You know, him and another coach had to help get Jason Peters on the cart, and they just, you know, they had.
We're from Philadelphia and we fight.
Yeah, but moving on from that, so the rest of the night you had a bit of a reassortment on the offensive line. And this didn't spell good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I guess Sam Bradford this game, I guess he did the best he could, but it's just there's too many effects at work here that factor into the Eagles the Eagles losing 27-16, obviously, out of your quarterback. Unfortunately, okay, Sam Brad already the offensive line, you know, Jason Peters out, going to have some problems. Now, the receivers, apparently, nobody was really getting any separation whatsoever in this game. In fact, if you look at the box score of this game, look at the stats, it's amazing how the Eagles' offense, they got close to 350 total yards this game. Now, a lot of that came from running the ball. You had 97 rush yards out of Ryan Matthews, 65 out of DeMarco Murray, 9 out of Sproles, 6 out of Bradford. Then you go to Sam Bradford's 205 passing yards. All right. 63 of those yards went to Zach Ertz, tight end. 11 of those went to Brent Selleck. 31 of those went to Darren Sproles. You're looking at like wheel routes and whatnot. 24 of those passing yards went to Ryan Matthews, and 5 of those went to DeMarco Murray. So, of this Philadelphia Eagles wide receiving core, what were they able to muster up this game? Out of the 205 yards that Sam Bradford threw, here's Riley Cooper, nothing. In fact, I barely even saw him out there. He was like non-existent. 52 of those yards went to Miles Austin. 14, a whopping 14 to Jordan Matthews. 5 to Josh Huff. That's essentially that's it. I repeat, 52 yards to Miles Austin. 14 to Jordan Matthews. Probably could have been at least 50 had he not dropped some of these passes. And same with Josh Huff, 2 receptions for 5 yards. What do we say about that? I mean, are we supposed to do cartwheels over that? It's like, and again, dropping the ball, dropping passes, but still, I'm watching Sam Bradford out there. It's like he doesn't know where to go with the football. If Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck are covered, it's like, well, who do I go to? And it just, Sam Bradford, I mean, it didn't look like he had anywhere to throw to. And already, off the bat, Sam Bradford's not the most mobile guy in the world. Now, I'll give him some credit. He did a little bit in the pocket, made a couple moves at times, but other times he just goes down too easily. And definitely saw that in this game. He can't, I mean, yeah, there was a 4th down play where it was kind of like a pass option and he ran it. Fortunately, got a 1st down. That's great. But other than that, I mean, Bradford is not a very mobile guy. And again, a lot of his limitations, I think, hurt the Eagles in this game. And I'm not going to blame a lot of this on Sam Bradford, but you look at, again, I hate to go to another team here and give credit to another undefeated team. Say what you want about Tom Brady, but he was machine-like in that 4th quarter win against the New York Jets.
To me, those balls are perfect.
Those balls were perfect that he was throwing. I'd say a pretty similar situation. The Patriots were down by a few points to the New York Jets, who, of course, the New York Jets, they have a great secondary and whatnot. In the 4th quarter, not to mention the New England Patriots I believe had 11 drops altogether in that game as well. So they were dropping passes left and right. But Tom Brady, if you watch that 4th quarter like I did, just the little things he does in the pocket and where he puts the football, right where the ball needs to get put at times. I mean, the guy was like a machine. And unfortunately, Sam Bradford, at this point, I'm convinced he's not. He's not the quarterback that's going to lead us to the promised land. This by no means, it was not his worst game. And quite frankly, I'm a little more, I guess, pissed off at the Eagles wide receivers and just the fact that there's no wide receivers really on this team. I mean, Nelson Aguilar's out, and I guess we'll wait and see on him. But yeah, I mean, other than that, again, Miles Austin, I mean, had 52 yards. Jordan Matthews, 14 yards. Josh Huff, 5 yards. Now, of the targets, again, Zach Ertz, receptions, I guess. 5 receptions. Sproles 5 receptions. Ryan Matthews 3. Murray 2. I mean, you look around the board here, and Bradford does not trust his wide receivers. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. Because the receivers on this team right now stink. And I don't see that getting any better. Maybe unless Aguilar steps up and we'll see what kind of stuff. But he's hurt, so it's too bad. And again, I mean, people want to say, well, Sturgis missed a field goal. Well, unfortunately, that's the sad state of the Philadelphia Eagles kicking. And I don't want it to come down to kicking in the first place. Yeah, Sturgis made a 52-yarder, and then right after that, he kicks a ball out of bounds, and the Panthers get it at the 40. It's just like, unfortunately, that's the state of kicking. And later on, he misses a 50-yard kick, and yeah, I mean, you could say, oh man, well, he made a 52-yarder earlier. It's like fine, but you know what was worse about that missed field goal? The play call on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10, whatever it was. I don't know if it's I think it was 3rd and 9. But first of all, they have to call a timeout because there were a couple instances in this game where they were just not organized or whatever. So they call a timeout and they have more time, in essence, to get things together. And you see Chip Kelly on the sideline with his S8 play card, which seems to get smaller and smaller every week. I mean, I feel like pretty soon his playbook is really, it could really just go on a little Post-it note for all we know. As one-dimensional as his play calling seems to be nowadays. You look earlier in the game, and Carolina, for instance, they had that big play with Cam Newton, kind of like a fake read option, and then he pitched it. It was like a big reverse play, sort of, and they almost take it to the end zone. It was a huge run. So on that 3rd and 9, with a timeout to discuss it and whatnot, they do a smoke screen out to Josh Huff, and essentially they don't even really get it back to the line of scrimmage. It's like, oh, that was really smart. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, I'm sure Nick Foles was still on this team. He'd probably think that too. What are we, along with all the drops that the wide receivers had in this game? I'm sure that would have been his reaction to that as well. But it's like, what are you doing out there? Again, like play calling like that, what kind of play call is that at that situation? You not only don't even really, if he gets tackled right away, which he kind of did, he got smothered, you don't get anything out of it. So already you have another long field goal attempt, and you can't trust Sturgis to be consistent. Yeah, he kicked a 52-yarder earlier, but surely enough, he missed this one. I wouldn't count on him enough to want to play. It was just a dumb play call. You gotta, and there's just so many of them this season where they don't throw it beyond the sticks at all, and that's when you have one pass that goes more than 20 yards a game. That's a problem. That is a huge problem. Now, so that's the passing game, I guess, in essence. I mean, summed up, drop balls, whatever. Just, I don't even know where to really begin to describe the pass game, and the play calling is another thing. I don't know who watches the press conferences after the game or whatever, but we'll go over to the running game now, I guess. DeMarco Murray He had 18 carries. The guy, normally, if you get him over 20 carries, it's a winning number. But unfortunately, the Eagles, they kind of fell behind, and they never had a lead in this game, so they were always kind of behind the 8 ball here. And unfortunately, they were forced to pass a lot to receivers after receivers or running backs, drop after drop, unfortunately. Despite having actually winning in time of possession and running over 80 plays, it's unfortunately that was not enough. A lot of those drop passes hurt things a lot. And when you get another 1st and goal and you can't, turn those into touchdowns, you got a problem. Of course, their one touchdown, came from that big run from Ryan Matthews. 6 attempts for 97. Obviously, that 63-yarder was obviously the bulk of that. So his other 5 carries essentially accounted for 34 yards. Still pretty solid. Overall, there were less carries across the board, but if you get a big touchdown play out of a running back like that, and you're not using him more often down the line here, down the stretch of the game, there's something wrong with you. Now I mentioned last week how DeMarco Murray at the end, he's the guy that you got to give him the football like 20 times a game, maybe more, to get him in that rhythm. That's the kind of running back he is. Ryan Matthews, he's a great alternative. And when they bring him out, he's been, especially recent games, he's been pretty successful. Maybe not last game. Last game was more DeMarco Murray's, kind of re-arrival game against the New York Giants. But most of these games, Ryan Matthews is getting his, 7, 8, 9 carries, and it's like a change of pace. You got a different kind of back in there. Unfortunately, after Ryan Matthews has that big touchdown run, he's not really... He was used in the game after that, but only in the passing game. Now, the explanation that Chip Kelly gave in the post-game press conference, to me, was just absolute ludicrous. And it's been repeated throughout the season. He goes on to say how, Deuce Staley is the guy that rotates the running backs. And to me, that's stupid. And number one, okay, well, you then tell Deuce Staley, let's get Ryan Matthews back in there. He just, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Not to mention, I continue to say week in and week out, I don't know why, with these 3 running backs that they insist on, why every game it's only like one of them can be out there at a time. I don't understand that at all. When they brought Darren Sproles here initially, I thought, well, the idea is it's going to be, when LaShawn McCoy was still here, they're going to use both Sproles and LaShawn McCoy in double back sets, which guy gets the ball, different styles, and I mean, still you got Sproles here, and it's well, now you got Murray and Matthews sharing the load as well. So you got 3 backs that and it's you only use one of them at a time? Remember a few minutes ago that little, Chip Kelly's S8 play card, how it seems to be shrinking. It's shrinking down to a Post-it note at this point. Maybe he could just write. He could just start writing his plays on his hand, and I think that'll do enough justice. because essentially it's like one-dimensional stuff all the time, running out of shotgun for one thing, but there's never they're barely ever under center, and it's like there can only ever be one back out there.
Was that like a wise-ass comment?
And I don't understand that at all. I really don't. When you got 3 running backs like that, you would think maybe they do some more, and with the different running styles as well. And with the receiving core that apparently you can't even throw to, that drops passes left and right this game, and that just apparently doesn't get any separation whatsoever because Sam Bradford doesn't know where to go with it most of the time this game. And he's already immobile, and he's already not having a great season. And he goes down too easily, gets sacked too easily, and again, I'm not going to put this all on Bradford. I'm not going to, because there's a lot of holes here in the receiving core, and just Chip Kelly, as a play caller, to me, has regressed. And part of it, I get it. He doesn't have the ideal core, but again, you have these 3 running backs, and there's this stupid rotation thing that in a game like this, maybe you got to think outside the box a little more. But if Ryan Matthews is ripping off a 63-yard touchdown run, nobody catching him, then there on out, you got to give him the ball more. Yeah, you can still obviously get the ball to Marco Murray, but you got to get Ryan Matthews. If he's not out there, if Deuce Staley's not putting him out there, you as the head coach should know. You got to say something to your running back coach, Deuce Staley, yo, Holmes, Ryan Matthews just ripped off. I mean, Matthews is clearly in a rhythm here. Maybe keep using him. And then there's also the excuse as well that, we did have Ryan Matthews out there later in the game. We were just calling pass plays. Well, guess what? Your passing game sucked. Clearly. And I know you were behind a lot in this game, but you still had plenty of time, especially with this hurry-up offense, this fast-paced offense, to get the job done on the ground anyways. And quite frankly, whatever pass plays you were doing weren't working anyways. Meanwhile, Ryan Matthews, who was showing perhaps a bust-out game here in the second half, maybe a chance to flip the script and win this game. No, we're not going to run the ball. He was out there, but he was asked this in the press conference last night. But no, we're calling pass plays at the time, so it's after that kind of run, and just in general the way he was running the football, even on his whopping 6 attempts, maybe call some run plays, and maybe again get Sproles and Murray out there as well with him, and maybe get some more going on there. Again, since it's like your wide receivers out there aren't doing anything, you're probably better off bringing on another running back and taking one of those wide receivers off who aren't doing squat anyways, other than dropping footballs. So, I don't know. In a nutshell, I think that's the way I look at it.
I agree.
I wish I was in the, one of the guys asking, questions there, to follow-up questions. Ryan Matthews was in the game there, but we were calling pass plays. Well, why don't you give him the ball again after ripping off that kind of run? I don't know. That's just me. Again, this game was lost not on drop passes alone. Obviously, that was a big part of it, but you don't got the quarterback. I'm convinced. It wasn't a bad game out of Bradford. I guess he did what he could behind that offensive line, and with receivers getting no separation. But still, at the end of the day, I don't know. It's just Bradford's not the guy to me. I'm convinced. Even if the Eagles still end up winning this division at 9-7 or whatever it may take it to win this division, at the end of the day, I can't see him as the franchise quarterback. And now speaking of, getting 9-7, well, the Eagles got a bye week, and then after that, they got a must-win against the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, who've lost 4 straight, of course. Their last win, of course, was against the Philadelphia Eagles when the Eagles came out absolutely flat. And then, of course, they got a couple other winnable games. Now, Miami's been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks, but at the end of the day, I think they could beat them. And, of course, they got one against Tampa Bay. They should be able to beat them as well. I can't believe they gave up that game to the Washington Redskins, but that just goes to show, Tampa Bay. And they got, of course, the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, which initially was looking like it might be a good game between two playoff-bound teams, but obviously the Lions aren't looking like a playoff-bound team this year. And it should be it's a game the Eagles really should win against a poor Detroit Lions team. So, I guess after this bye week, there might be a bit of a clearing here. I think clearly, though, Carolina's on another level, and the Eagles they're not. The Eagles don't have enough to beat Carolina. Carolina's pretty for real, I think, now that they're 6-0. I don't think they're as far as 6-0 teams, I don't think they're, quite as good as Green Bay or New England in the AFC, but nevertheless a pretty formidable team. And once they play Atlanta, that'll be interesting to see how those two teams mesh up against one another. Because, Carolina, I kind of think they're due for a loss soon, but the Eagles, it just wasn't meant to be. The Eagles, they were not good enough to beat Carolina on Sunday Night Football, and that's the bottom line. I already said enough about Chip Kelly and his post-game press conference, and who really cares? He's not it's like he passes the blame on the Deuce Staley. I don't know if you want to call it blame, but he just says, well, Deuce Staley, does the rotations for running backs. And, he did put Ryan Matthews out there, but we were calling run plays, or I'm sorry, we were calling pass plays at the time, and just, typical Chip Kelly and the press, and just not really having anything good to say. So, and it's not a Times Yours Tuesday anyways, it's a Monday. I don't know, I don't know what you want to call it, but just a Monday where we're just not happy about what the Eagles brought to the table. I think that's the bottom line. And again, it doesn't get much worse when you drop all those passes. It really doesn't. Again, there's no receivers on this team. That's the bottom line. At least for the meantime. I think, Josh Huff, obviously with Nelson Aguilar out, there's a chance for guys like Josh Huff to, show some flashes of greatness, and he hasn't really been showing anything the past couple of weeks for the most part, unfortunately. And again, Jordan Matthews just continues to drop the ball. That's a shame. So, into the bye week. Of course, we'll go around the NFL in the next video as always, but before ending this video, at least, at the end of the day, this is a football town, and we bleed Eagles green and this and that. But fortunately, got handed a little bit to the Philadelphia Flyers, getting a couple wins this, past few days. Fortunately, this new Flyers regime, I kind of like what I'm seeing so far. Obviously, the 5-4 win against the Bruins. Mid last week against in overtime against the Boston Bruins. Some good stuff. And of course, against the New York Rangers in a shootout. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers, they won a game in a shootout. That's got to be a first. Oh my God! In a long time. I mean, I can't remember the last time they won a shootout. Nonetheless, against the New York Rangers. So, I mean, good stuff out of the Philadelphia Flyers lately. Getting some clutch overtime wins with this new 3-on-3 overtime, and it's quite exciting.
Oh, man!
And fortunately, some good stuff out of the Flyers. And tomorrow night they will take on the Buffalo Sabres, the Wells Fargo Center, and then they got the Devils Thursday as well at the Wells Fargo Center, and then they got another one with the Buffalo Sabres then up in Buffalo on Friday night. So, action-packed week here for the Philadelphia Flyers coming up, certainly. So, we'll look forward to at least some of those games. The Flyers put a couple wins together in the past week or so. So, that's good to see. More than we can say for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Carolina Panthers. But nonetheless, hopefully we'll see some bounce back coming out of the bye, and hopefully whatever this drop ball syndrome is that might be going around with the Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully maybe they can clear that up. With that in mind, thanks for tuning in to the Tyler Werner Show, Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Like it, and keep up with future episodes / videos here on the Tyler Werner Show YouTube channel.
Number 1 box office attraction, number 1 WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. I think we're done.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.